Hi there, this is Rustic David. I make rustic and recycled wood furniture. On my channel, I'm going to show you how you can do it too, using simple, basic hand tools. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a lap joint. This is a lap joint, where we remove half of the material from each piece, and they fit together flush, creating a large area for glue, which makes a very strong, very simple joint that you can make with just a saw. You don't need a chisel or anything like that. So, let's get into it. Okay, so now you're in a bit closer, you can see what this joint consists of. What we need to do to make these two guys fit together nicely, like this, we need to remove half of the material from here and half of the material from here. You're going to need a couple of bits of straight wood. Maybe you should practice a little bit before you move on to your actual project. You're going to need a saw. This is a very cheap Stanley saw. As you see, it's been around a bit, but it's still good. This is a tenon saw, or a back saw. You don't have to have a back saw. Whatever saw you've got, you can do the job with. A square will really help. A sharp pencil is a must. I mean sharp. And then you see I've got some other tools over here. This is a combination square. You don't have to have a combination square. If you've got one, you can use one of these to help you with the marking out. This is a marking gauge. Again, if you have one, you probably know how to use it. If not, there's plenty of videos out there. You don't have to have a marking gauge. I've got a chisel here also. A chisel helps just to fit the joint together a bit nicer. But if you haven't got a chisel, or if your chisel looks like this, so don't waste your time and effort. It's not sharp. It's just going to tear the wood and make life difficult, so don't bother with it. If you've got a sharp chisel, wonderful. If not, you can just use a block of wood with some sandpaper on it. A couple of clamps or some way of holding the work while you cut it is very important. You can't just, I don't know, put your knee on it or something. It might be a bit difficult. And another little thing that you can make very easy is a bench hook. This is called a bench hook, and this simply hooks on the side of the bench so that when I'm sawing, I have a place that gets locked onto the workpiece. It gets locked in here, and then I can saw. And this also makes your life very easy. I'll do a video about how to make one of those. That's called a bench hook. It's just 1, 2, 3 pieces of wood, a couple of nails or screws or whatever you have. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is our material. So here I have a quite bent piece of wood, which is the kind of stuff you find in most hardware stores where they're selling wood by the meter. It's got round corners, which sometimes makes marking out a bit difficult because you can't really measure it very easily. You can measure it here the best. Okay, this is just a piece of pine, you see, with a great big eye in the middle of it. When we're cutting joinery, we should try and avoid the eyes. They make life difficult. The grain runs in all different directions. Maybe your workpiece looks like this, which is much more rustic. It's got nice square corners. Now you can use this type of material as well. I prefer working with this type of material. I just like the way it looks. But for the video, so you can see the lines clearly, I'm going to use this. Now, as you can see, I've got 1 piece of wood, and to cut a joint I need 2 pieces of wood. So first of all, I'm going to just saw it roughly in half. Okay. So now the first thing we want to do is find the middle of the material, because we're going to remove half of the material. You can use some measuring tool, and like I said, it's easier to measure up here. So this wood is, well, it's 21 millimeters. So half of that would be 10.5 millimeters. So I could use this, but also I've got this round corner. I could put a flat edge here to help me see where it's 10.5 mil, and I can make a mark. Once you've got a mark, put your pencil on the mark and use your finger as a guide along the edge. Oh, sorry about that. Somebody arrived and the dog started barking. So as I was saying, you can use your finger as a guide, put the pencil on the mark and draw a line. You can follow that line all the way around. Now, if you're not feeling too confident about this idea, you could use a compass. Like this. And you don't need to measure if you use a compass. I take my compass and I adjust it until it looks about the middle, okay? And I make a little mark. And then I flip the compass over to the other side of the workpiece and make another mark. Now you see I've got one very thick line. So it means I need to adjust my compass in between those two lines, like that. There we are. And now I'm keeping my compass straight. I can draw my line and I could continue it all the way around like this. Okay, so I'm just going to mark the other end of the other piece. It's a bit rough, so it doesn't go so smoothly. And don't worry too much. Practice makes perfect. You'll be able to eyeball the middle after a little while. Whilst I was editing the video, I noticed that you couldn't see what I was marking out about the cheeks. So what you should have been seeing, after I'd marked half of the material, like this, then I lay a piece across like this. Now you can butt your square up to it if you like, or you can just look that you're flush on the edge. And then check for squareness afterwards. Just slightly out. There we are. And then I wanted to mark it around the edge here. Like this. I hope you see this time. And then I said, okay, this is what I don't want. This is what needs to be removed. Okay, so that's what your workpiece should look like, and then we're going to saw off this cheek. Bonk, like this. Okay, so now we need to saw away this material. I have a vise. I could always hold the material in the vise and saw it off. I understand if you're just beginning and you're watching my video, you're probably just beginning. So you don't have a vise. Hopefully you have some kind of table you can use somewhere. And what you can do, you can clamp a block of wood onto your table, like this. Now I know this isn't a regular table, but you can clamp a bit of wood onto a regular table. Okay? And now I can put this piece here, take another clamp, and clamp onto it like this. If you don't want to make a mark on your workpiece, you'd have to put another little piece of wood between the clamp and the workpiece. Now it's pretty solid. So now I can remove the material. So I'm going to take my saw, and using my thumb to help me. I want to be as close to that line as I can. And I start off on the top like this, and slowly drop down my elbow. Now I could see that was a little bit fatter on one side than the other, so I just adjusted the saw. Now I'm going to go down next to this line, drop my elbow, go down. You can see that wasn't perfect. This piece is moving around. I just tighten the clamp a bit. So now I did until the line, like this. And you can probably see that this piece is a little bit thicker than this piece, but no problem. If I think about it when I do this one, I can just take a little bit extra here. Because the end of this piece was very rough, it's very difficult for me to see the markings actually here. Maybe 2 clamps would hold it better. If your saw is binding, maybe it's rusty. Your saw's a bit old and rusty like this one. So if your saw's a bit rusty and it's sticking, binding, you can wipe a little bit of oil on here. Here's some oil. Let's put a little drop. You can use your finger. A little bit here, a little bit here. Just take an old rag. Rub that oil around. If you don't have any oil, you could use a candle. The wax lubricates it. If you don't have a candle, you can actually use a bar of soap. That'll lubricate it too. Okay, so now I've made those 2 cuts. I need to remove the cheek. I need to make the shoulder cut. This is called the shoulder. So I'm going to make my shoulder cut, which is this one here. I need to cut the shoulder. So again, I'm going to use my bench hook. Take your time. There's one cheek. Let's take off the other cheek. Go. Let's have a look how that is. A little short. See that? So we can easily correct that. A little step there. Just decide which one's going where. See, I cut up next to the line, but because of these round corners, probably my pencil rolled inside a little bit. So I just need to trim that up a bit. It's things like this that the bench hook really does make your life easy. There we are. Let's see, how's that? Oh, that's better. There we are. So now we have a half lap joint. And because of the round corners, you're left with a bit of a sort of a gap here because the corner's round. Now, once you put glue on here, you want to clamp it up like this. Once the glue's dry, you could reinforce it by drilling a hole and putting a dowel through the hole, which will make it even stronger. So there we are. Now, if these two surfaces aren't flat and you want them totally flat, so take your little block of wood, keeping it as flat as you can. Don't let it rock around and roll like this. Keep it as flat as you can. And you can just remove a little material. You could even straighten up a shoulder like this. You see my sandpaper just comes to the edge of this piece of sandwich, plywood. So you can clean up a shoulder like this. Clean it up like this. But really do try to keep things flat. Don't let this rock around, because then your joint won't fit together very well at all. So you can take a little bit off, you can adjust it, you can do it with sandpaper. If you had a sharp chisel, you can use a sharp chisel. Sandpaper will do the job at a pinch. And you put these guys together, glue them up, and there you go. It's the beginning of a little door, or a frame for something. I don't know, whatever you need to join your wood. So a lap joint and a half lap joint. In another video, I'll do a half lap T-joint like this, which is basically the same, but you will need a chisel. Okay. That's all for now. I hope this will help you with some future projects. Check out my other videos. There's more joinery and techniques that you can learn. And if you like the video, please like, subscribe, and any comments please put below. All the best. Thanks for watching. Bye now.